February 2023. Can you believe we're already here, Catherine?
I cannot. I don't know where the time went, but here we are, and we're approaching spring slowly, but yeah, still in February. Um, 2023. Here we are.
How are things going? Tell me about what are you experiencing in the market right now? I know that today what we're going to talk about for everybody, just so you know, is we're going to talk about what's happening in the market. We're going to give you real life stats looking back at January of this year. You want to know what's happening in the market. Are prices going up? Are they going down? Is inventory going up? Is it going down? Days on market, are they increasing, decreasing? Yes, this affects you because everyone's affected by real estate, even if you're tenanting. Because if you're a tenant, you may want to look at purchasing. Is it a good time? Well, you got to wait and see. We're also going to give you my favorite tips. Catherine and myself have combined heads, and we're going to give you our best tips of how to have your offers accepted going into the spring market. We see more competition going into the spring market. How do you set yourself out from the rest of the pack? I don't know about you, Catherine, but I'm already in multiple offer situations, both on the listing side and the buying side. I think I've been in 5 multiple offer situations already, and it's only February, what is it, February 6th?
Mm-hmm. It's proof that the market is heating back up again. I know we saw a quiet trend over December and maybe beginning of January, but honestly, for us agents, just everyone has woken up. They want to get back on to shopping, and we're seeing inventory, of course, rise as well. So with that comes competition. So yeah, plenty multiple offers. Don't think that yours will be the first one considered anymore. It can be a little shocking because we just came out of this not too long ago, but it looks like we're headed back into our spring competition.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and let's talk about what are we seeing with buyers right now? What are we seeing with sellers? And then how do we critique your offers that you're putting in to make sure that you always end up on top? Because you want to be a winner. Am I right, Catherine? If we're putting in offers in, you want to be the winner and you don't always want to have to flex on price. So we're going to show you other variables other than price that are going to help you win your multiple offer situation. Let's talk about buyers. So I'll start with buyers, and then Catherine, I'll leave it to you for sellers, and then anything else you want to talk about with sellers as well. Buyers, what are we seeing right now? Buyers, we are seeing more inventory hit the market than we have in the last quarter of 2022. So there's more shopping options for our buyers. Our buyers love it. It's nice to have shopping options. It's kind of like going into a convenience store and everything's sold out and there's nothing left except for that old crusty Charleston Chew chocolate bar that you don't even want, but you're going to buy it anyways because it's the only thing that's going to, it's going to serve your appetite. That's like buyers in the last quarter of last year. There wasn't a lot of options. You're kind of just buying things because it's the last thing on the shelf. Well, guess what? There's new shiny objects now in that convenience store. There's new shiny properties that are hitting the market. And I mean, looking at our stats, which we're going to go over afterwards, we're seeing a 94% increase in listings from December. That's a lot more shopping. That's a lot more shopping for you. So you can be a little bit pickier, which is great to see. Buyers are also getting really good prices right now too. Buyers are seeing excellent prices. Yes, interest rates have gone up, but it looks like pricing is staying nice and low. One of my favorite sayings is, if you're sitting on the sidelines right now as a buyer, because the interest rates, yes, they went up by 1/4 point about 2 weeks ago. If you're sitting on the sidelines, would you rather buy a home or a property at a discounted rate where you've paid less than market value for a property and slightly higher interest rates, or would you rather pay more for a property than it's probably actually worth, pay above market value, overpay for it, and get slightly lower interest rates that are temporary? I don't know about you, but I'd always rather save the money and buy a property below market value because interest rates are always going to change, right? But once you pay too much for a property, you're going to be paying for it for literally the next 30 years. So make sure that you manage that accordingly. Get out there. If you're looking at getting better pricing, that's what we're seeing right now. Catherine, what are we seeing on the seller side?
Yeah, another game of would you rather. So essentially, if you're listing your property, would you rather be the only house on the block in your neighborhood and be the shining star? Or are you more so the type of person that wants to compete amongst, 5 to 10 more properties in your neighborhood? Could change your situation, could change your outcome. So if you are looking for your highest dollar amount, there are many variables, of course, that we have to consider, But if you are the only property in that neighborhood and you have 10 buyers that are looking, the chances of multiple offer situation are much higher. However, if you are waiting for spring, potentially into that March, April time of year, you can still probably anticipate, plenty of buyers coming through, but it's a busier season and there are many other options to consider. So just keep that in mind if you want to be at the forefront or if you want to be, within the mix of other eligible properties. That would be my first comment. And then sellers, of course, if you are planning on listing soon, we recommend, list as soon as you can. We don't know where interest rates are going to go. Of course, as Calvin said, it's always better if you can save a little bit of money, regardless of the interest rate. But, time can only tell that. So we don't know where things are going. We hope they balance. But overall, it's here and now, what's the best solution for you as a seller or as a buyer? It all depends on where you're at in your personal timeline.
Yeah. Completely agree. Let's go straight into the stats. Again, like Catherine is saying, when you're listing a property or trying to sell a property, would you rather be the only property in your community selling, so all the attention is on you, or do you want to wait until the spring market where all your neighbors are going to be listing as well? And now it's literally just who's willing to price their property at the lowest that sells. I don't know about you. I'd rather be the only property listed on the market, in the community. The attention's on me, and I have a higher chance of getting a higher sale price. So let's talk about the stats. Let's talk about where we are at with the market. So January, we actually ended up seeing a drop in overall pricing. As an average, the overall average pricing for real estate has gone down. Now, that doesn't mean for every type of property. We saw an increase in townhouses by 4.4%. And those condo lovers out there, those condo owners out there, finally good news for you. You've gone up by 5.5%. I actually can't remember a time that I saw condos increase at such a high percentage and all the other types of properties drop. This is the first month. So condos, there you go. Someone's throwing you a bone. You're finally able to see a slightly higher sale price according to the stats than everything else. You're finally winning. You guys deserve a win, right?
Yes.
It's like some of these hockey teams out there that haven't seen a win in decades. And every once in a while, you just get a game that you won. You get a little bit of a win, good for you. That's like condos. You haven't won the cup in a long time, but you're getting these marginal wins. Take it for what you got, right? Appreciate the small things. Yes. Overall, what we're seeing for new listings, Catherine, what are we seeing for new listings? We talked about it already, but what are we seeing now, and what are we expected to see as we hit the spring market?
We are expected to see more, of course, more listings come to market. I believe back in December, we were at 5,010. Correct me if I'm wrong, for inventory. So we have come up, a significant amount. Like Calvin had mentioned earlier, month over month, 94.8%. That's huge in terms of just going from December to January. So, I mean, I'm only guessing, but we're probably going to double, coming into the February market as well, heading into March. February is a short month, so we'll see what happens in that time frame. Of course, condos, townhomes, anyone that's asked me in the last week or so, should I sell my condo? This is your answer. Yes, you should. It's clearly in the numbers. Sales have gone up 0.2%. So a little bit surprising for us, for sure. However, I think we'll continue to see that number increase as we, get into the warmer temperatures. And days on market, we are for where am I looking here? We've definitely continued to grow in terms of days on market compared to last year. So especially for single detached homes, which is not usual, but I'm sure we'll see that number kind of decrease over the next few months.
Yeah, completely agree. I think we're going to see, I know we're going to see more listings hit the market, more sales hit the market, and then we're going to see lower days on market. That's typically what we end up seeing as we progress through. Captain, let's go ahead and give everybody our best tips when it comes to having your offers accepted, whether you're in a multiple offer situation or not, or you simply just want to get the best price and you want to have the most leverage. So let's talk about the variables that are available to you. And if you're watching this right now, type in the comments If there's any variables that you can think of that you've used before to get your offer accepted over someone else other than price, write them in the comments. I'd be interested to see if it's anything outside of, and I actually can't even see the comments right now. So comment whatever you want. We already have our list. It's already written down. We're not adding anything that you've already put in there. If you can come up with something that we haven't and it makes sense, maybe I'll throw you a Starbucks card. Maybe I'll buy you a coffee one day. I will. You know what? You come up with something good that we haven't thought of, we'll go ahead and send you guys a coffee, okay? You'll have your morning coffee tomorrow on us, okay? We're gonna go back and forth here, Catherine. I'm gonna list one, you're gonna list the next, and we're gonna see how far we can go, okay?
Sure.
So
I
I'm
have
gonna
to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm gonna start with possession. So outside of price, possession is a great variable that you can utilize to an advantage. Now, think of it this way. When you're looking at buying a property, think about what possession date the seller might need based on their situation. Sellers have many different situations. Sellers might be going through an estate sale. It could be pre-foreclosure. Maybe the sellers are looking at buying a new property. Maybe sellers cannot maintain their mortgage anymore and they're looking at taking a tenant position. Find out the needs of the seller and offer them a possession date that's more advantageous to them if you're able to allow that flexibility on your behalf. Something else you can think of. Sometimes owners, and especially in cases like this, they cannot keep up with interest rates. They're on a variable, they can no longer afford it. They may be looking at taking a tenant position. So what you could do is find out if that's what they're looking at doing and they've maintained the property in a great state over the last couple of years. Ask them, would you like to come in as a tenant position in this home, especially for you investors out there? I mean, no better tenant than the person that actually owned the property, the seller that owned the property right before you purchased it from them. Yeah. Find out, that could be one of your best tenants you've ever achieved, right? Thinking outside the box, but it's asking these qualified and educated questions to put yourself in a position. I know that if I was the seller and I was looking at two separate offers, one of them was the possession date that I wanted, maybe a couple K less, and they were willing to have me stay in the home that I've loved, that I grew up in. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. I would have went the offer with less, less price, but the more flexible possession date and maybe the tenancy option. So ask the right questions, you'll get the answers you need to be able to solve problems. Catherine, what's your next tip?
Yeah, I mean, playing off of that, sometimes it's not only the numbers, and sometimes it's not even the dates either. It can be the heartstrings. There are two different ways that you can, I guess, add to your offer. So we'll talk about conditions and all of that as well. But one thing, if you are going the mortgage route and you choose to have a financing condition on your offer, then we recommend having that pre-approval letter with you. Most mortgage brokers should be able to provide this. So make sure you ask your realtor. And if they're not aware, then reach out to your financing team and they should be able to provide written approval for you so that you can provide that with your offer. And it makes it that much more strong. Second thing too, I mentioned heartstrings. Write that emotional letter. Explain why this property means so much to you and your family, why it would mean the world to you to take possession at this day. Especially if you are having to offer at a lower price. Sellers can be very flexible if they feel that it's the right fit. Sometimes emotions can take over. Price doesn't happen all the time, but if we're speaking in primary residential terms, most definitely I recommend. Investors, shoot your shot. I mean, you never know. Maybe you're trying to help your kids get through college, or maybe it's that long-term investment property you hope to have for over 10 years. That could also have some decision weight as well. And then moving into conditions, Calvin, did you want to touch on that, or I can do?
Sure, I'll do it.
Sure.
So like Catherine was saying, investors, this is something I've never done before, but this is a great idea. I mean, I've personally represented sellers before that have picked a lower priced offer because that offer was accompanied by a picture of the family and a very detailed description of why the family needed to occupy that home for school reasons, for closer to grandma and grandpa. I mean, it's really hard. You kind of got to be a little bit emotionless for you not to feel that sensitivity when you're getting a letter like that. I've represented sellers before that have blatantly picked that offer, even though it was lower in price versus what appeared to be the better offer on paper, because of the emotional strings that Catherine's talking. It is a thing and it works. Investors, if you're buying a buy and hold and it's for, maybe you want to pay off your kids, college fund, and that's why you're buying the property, or maybe you're buying the property for your 2-year-old. So when they turn 18, it's a nice 18-year-old gift where it's like, here you go, son or daughter, here's a property that's going to help you maintain strength financially for the rest of, for a portion of your life. Put that in a letter. Say, I'm literally buying this house for my 2-year-old daughter, Tracy, and I can't wait for her to be able to take on this property when she turns 18 in 16 years from now. I can promise you we're going to maintain it well. Write it. Like Catherine said, shoot your shot. I'd be very interested to hear on some responses that you guys have achieved. And if you guys have tried something like that, let me know. Let me know how it's been. I personally have not done that yet, but I think it's a great idea. Last thing is conditions. Conditions are there for buyers to escape a deal based on what those conditions are. So normally when you're writing an offer, conditions are financing, inspection. And if anything comes up with your financing or inspection and you don't want to proceed forward with your property, with the property's purchase, you have the ability to back away. And that's why they're conditions. It's conditional on the sale based on those items. Now, that being said, sellers don't like conditions. Sellers don't like conditions of long periods because it shows the buyers more opportunity to wiggle out of the deal. Sellers don't want you to wiggle out of the deal, especially if it's a newly listed home, because then they can lose all momentum in the sale. You list a property, you go pending, it's pending for 2 weeks, a day before the pending date. The buyers don't proceed forward. They lost all momentum. And there's a very low probability they're going to be able to catch that momentum up again. So one thing you can do with your conditions, have less conditions or go unconditional if you're financially stable. Don't go unconditional if you've been pre-approved. You can go unconditional if you have private lending or you're paying cash. Those are the only 2 situations I ever recommend going unconditional. So if you don't have the cash in the account or you don't have that private lending that's already been backing you, I don't recommend it, because if you've only been, like having a soft approval / pre-approval, it's not going to be enough to get the job done. There's that hard approval that once you go pending, the banks look at to lend you the money. So Catherine, we've given them a lot of tips. We've gone over possession date. We've talked about things like pre-approval letter. We've talked about things like, hit the heartstrings, investors hit the heartstrings. We've talked about conditions. Has anybody else, and we talked about putting them in a tenancy position post-possession. Anybody else that's watching this right now or later on, if there's anything else that you guys have done to have a seller accept your offer, maybe an agreement for sale could be advantageous as well. I mean, we're talking about the creative financing things. I want to hear from you guys. Type it in the comments. Would love to be able to see what it is. Then I lied. I actually just found out I can see the comments.
Oh, can you?
Okay. Yeah. So Jeremy said, could you offer to cover closing costs for the seller? Absolutely. I think that's a great idea as well, right? I know that closing costs can be quite expensive in certain cases, right? In the lawyer fees, I mean, some of the fees for the realtors, you could offer something like that, could be a great option. Let's go through another one. Jeremy, you're making my brain just go crazy right now with other options. What if it's a hoarder's house? What if you're buying a property that has a ton of stuff in it and you don't know that the seller doesn't want any of that shit going along with them? You could say, hey, I'll take your SHIT, which probably isn't SHIT. It's obviously very cherished, but probably not, because you're leaving it behind. So we're going to go back to the SHIT. We're going to take all of your stuff and we'll be the ones that are going to be willing to take it to the dump for you. And you're able to take a huge load off. I had one seller at the tail end of that last year in Otwell, and that was their main focus. They're just like, I want a buyer that's willing to take my stuff, because I have 3 kids and I have no time and I'm moving to Nova Scotia. So we found a buyer. They were willing to take all their stuff. She's like, I'll accept whatever price they want within reason. And she was super happy. The buyers got a great price and it was a huge win-win. So find out the seller's situation. You might be able to solve a lot more problems than you think, but you got to ask the educated questions. Catherine, are we missing anything right now? I think we're giving them a lot.
We are giving them a lot, but there's still one more thing. This just shows you the brains of realtors and all the check boxes we make when we are writing up an offer for you. So we're talking about agreement for sales. We're talking about helping the sellers out to make it more attractive. So when we are mentioning these items, we're talking terms. Sometimes it can be an additional condition, but usually it's a term. And we want to keep that list usually as short as possible, or if those terms are in favor of the seller, then even better. But when you are making an offer, try to think about those terms very carefully. And I usually tell my clients, what are your non-negotiables? does this house need to be cleaned before you move in? You know, are we adamant on a real property report? And, you know, do you really want the swing set in the back? Or, you know, do you need a certain shed removed by condition? You know, all these things come into play. Every property is going to be different. So if there are those items, ask for them, but also just try to look at the big picture and see what's worth, I guess, losing an offer over, or, you know, what you're willing to negotiate on. So that would be my last take on terms.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. Other than that, that's all we're giving you today. We're coming back in a month's time from now, and we're going to have a new update of what's happening in the market, what to expect, how to win as a buyer, how to win as a seller. And we might even sprinkle some creative financing on you guys as some extra. We'll see, though. Other than that, we will see you guys all in some time. If you guys have any questions, you know to reach out to us at any time. I'm going to the real estate investors meetup on Saturday in Nisku. So I don't know if there's any tickets left, but if you guys haven't got your tickets yet, you definitely want to go to that. That is Wayne and Gabby's event. So if you guys are going and you're watching this video, we'll see you there. I'll be there then. I'll be there in the afternoon. Catherine, other than that, you have a great day.
You as well. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we wish you all the luck in February.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.